Thanks for joining, Neion.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. I know it's been quite a busy month just for you and for me.
Yes.
But I do appreciate it making the time to come and have a quick chat.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So before we begin, I want to just kind of get a good understanding. Some people might know you, some people might not. Just a little bit throughout your, high school, elementary, junior high school. Can you just talk us through, how did those times go by? Like, did you had any sort of exposure to any sort of other activity besides just actual classes?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you have to do any sort of, community work, which relates to, to what you do now as part of your professional acting?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, I just wanted to say thank you for
Thanks,
having
man.
me on. I know we're still in the very humble beginnings of this show, and I know things have not sort of grown to what I know you aspire it to be. So to have me here at the very humble beginnings, I appreciate it. So thank you very much for having me.
No worries, man. Thanks for being here.
Yes, definitely. So to get to your question, outside of, maybe I'll start with where I was in the beginning stages.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a Guyanese-born Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
I immigrated here in Canada in 1994.
Okay.
And I spent the majority of my time growing up in North York.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent some time sort of in the around the Jane and Wilson area, if you're familiar with that a bit. And then, in high school, I went to high school a bit northern of the city,
Okay.
Young and Steeles area.
Okay.
And then ultimately,
Your high school was at Young and Steeles?
High school was at Young and Steeles.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Right by Centerpoint Mall.
Actually, right behind Centerpoint
Mall,
yeah.
yes. What was it called?
It's called Newtonbrook Secondary School.
Yes. All right. I'm sure pretty
familiar
much.
with that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Nice.
yeah. I used to go there on Saturday schools.
Nice.
All right. So during your high school days, did you have to do any sort of drama classes, acting classes? First of all, how did you even get into it? Were you always inspired by acting? Did you want it to do acting, or was it just more of just going there and kind of explore to see what was out there?
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head right there. So high school is actually where I started acting.
Okay.
So in high school, I got involved in the dramatic arts
Okay.
courses that we have there.
Mm-hmm.
And my initial interest in acting came about by watching the Family Channel. I don't know if you remember the Family Channel.
Yes.
But
Is it still around?
It's still around,
Okay.
but I don't watch it much anymore. But I remember watching That's So Raven and
Mm-hmm.
Sweet Life of Zach and Cody and all these nice, cool shows. And I remember having the acting course in high school. I remember going to my dramatic arts teacher and saying, "Hey, listen, I want to be on one of these shows.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be on the Family Channel." And she was like, "Neion, it's tough. But let's just take it."
But was it natural
steps.
though before you even the first attempt, the first class that you attended? Was it natural? Did you know what you were expecting, getting yourself into?
Yeah, I won't say it was natural, but it was definitely a comforting place.
It was,
right? Because the moment I got on stage and I did something, my very first thing that I did was a monologue, and I remember doing that, and it was on stage amongst I want to say 50 to 100 people. We had an arts night.
Okay.
And I remember being so nervous. Sweating, and I didn't even know what it was at that time.
How much practice did you guys had before you go do that first performance?
So as part of the course, the idea was to train towards this arts night. So you spent the entire year training for a particular monologue or a scene. Or
how many months? So was that 8 months?
It's about 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
So you're going through all these trainings, you're learning as you're growing, but then obviously you're doing all these practices.
Yes.
You're repeating the practices to I guess master it until you do the performance.
Yes.
But just walk me through the whole process. How does for someone that's never taken an art drama course or acting, how does it? Is it more of you're all just noobs and then you're just listening to what the instructor is asking you to do?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, because you're kind of replicating being on set.
Okay.
Right? So whatever the teacher tells you that they want you to do or tweak after you do a scene, you have to try your best to try and, listen, take that in and present it to them, right?
Okay.
So for me, getting into acting, like I said, it wasn't natural at all, but I knew it felt comfortable. So when I got up on stage, yes, it was 8 months, and in 8 months you have enough time to kind of perfect your craft. But typically whenever you're on set, you don't really have that much time, right? I mean, even when it comes to an audition, you know, I might get a call today saying that, hey, you have an audition tomorrow, and I have maybe 4 or 5 pages that I have to remember, right? So it's the acting world is a bit different when it comes to your preparation. It's one of those things where you have to stay ready instead of being ready. You know what I mean?
But so 8 months of prep during high school, and then your end result is this play, right?
Yeah.
So how long was your particular scene?
It was only about 3 or 4 minutes. It was a monologue.
It was a monologue that you were doing for 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Did that felt when you were doing it after 8 months of crafting that monologue? Did you felt it? Was it more than 3-4 minutes? Or was it shorter? Was it just gone, like out of like seconds?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're nervous and you do something, at the end of the day, it feels like it went by so fast. Right?
Okay,
like those 3 or 4 minutes felt to me like they were maybe like 30 seconds or whatnot. Right?
Do you have a record of it, like a videotape of it? Anything that you could always look back?
Man,
to see?
I wish I did.
You don't have it.
I don't have it. I don't have it.
Like back then, high school would never like do that. Like they wouldn't record it themselves either.
They would, but I mean, it was so long ago. This was maybe 2008.
Okay.
Right.
This is like almost 12 years ago.
11 years ago. Okay. Right. Almost 12 now.
12 years ago.
They definitely, they wouldn't have it. I mean, maybe, but they likely wouldn't. And remember, back then, I didn't know that I was going to get
into What grade were you
acting,
in when you took the first drama class or acting class?
Grade 10.
Okay.
Grade 10.
So did that not wanted you to want to do this more and more?
Yeah.
Like you wanted to do this more and more?
Yeah. So through that, I actually, so fast forward after doing that monologue and, you know, asking my dramatics arts teacher, how do I get more involved in acting? And she recommended me to a local theater. It was called the Young Theater for the Performing Arts.
Okay.
They still exist. It's downtown in the Distillery District. And they basically focus on helping young adults get into the acting world.
Okay.
Specifically with them, it was more so the theater world as opposed to the film world.
Okay.
But long story short, she directed me towards them. I got involved in a program that they do, and I did a couple shows with them over a period of time. And once I got into that, I found my way into getting an agent.
Okay.
And then once I got an agent, I found my way into the film industry.
So walk me through that. So once your play is done and your acting teacher, you know, kind of tells you, okay, Neion, I think you're more fitted to this, you know, community. Go and join them in the distillery industry. Was it more of a just a side activity, or did you actually started taking it seriously?
It was a side.
It was a side
gig.
So right? it wasn't like, you know, would you say once a week, twice a week?
Yeah. So the actual program itself was once a week. I remember it vividly. It was like every Tuesdays. And I remember them giving us bus tickets to get down there. It was
from
cool.
high school.
From high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was pretty cool.
Okay.
So it was once a week, and yeah, it was just something I did as a hobby. Right.
Okay.
But it was great because I was getting more involved in the community. I was meeting people and getting my face where it needed to be seen.
How did your family got adjusted to it? Were they okay with it? Because you would be what, 16, 15 years old at that time. Yeah. So for them to allow you to go downtown after school to take that, you know, bus trip, and I'm sure back then it wasn't as convenient as it is maybe today, right? You had to I'm sure you had to take metro, then you had to take bus, and then you had to come back again. How did were they okay with it? Like, did you have to fight for it to ask them to say, hey, like, let me in?
Yeah, my mom was very supportive
from the beginning.
I lived primarily with my mother and my younger brother, and she was so supportive of it. She said, you know, Neion, if this is what you want to do, then go right ahead, right? And I grew up as I was very independent, and I grew up very quickly in terms of my maturity. So she knew that if I told her that I'm going to be somewhere, I'd be there. And if I said I'd be home at a certain time, I'd do it. So she really trusted me to kind of get involved more. And
how long did that, because I know you mentioned that it's once a week, but how long was the actual program? Do you have any?
It was a 12-week program. I think it was about a 12-week program.
So it was like almost like a one season?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was a 12-week program, if I remember correctly, and I think it was in the winter.
Okay.
And then it wrapped up in the
spring.
Yeah, not in the spring, beginning of the spring.
Beginning of spring.
And we did a show similar to what we did in the dramatic arts course, where at the end of the course we had a presentation. So with this one here, there was a show, and I remember presenting. It was this theater production called Mingling in the Moonlight. By I forget the actual author, but it was a theater production that we did at the end, and that kind of culminated everything and all the weeks that we put in.
And did you felt as someone who this was your second, I guess, experience, going, prepping and going on to, doing this performance, did you felt like you were improving? Like, did you feel it? Did you feel like you kept crafting it more better and better and better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So did you, so walk me through this. So right now you're a young teenager who just completed their first play at high school. Now you're about to start your first journey into this, after school hours program. Other people that were also involved, were they also as, let's say, creative as you were, or were they better? Were they perfect? Like how did you rate yourself among the others that were like your age that were also doing the same thing?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that I was, I mean, at that time, like I said, it was my beginning stages of acting, right? And the program that I was part of, those other participants were also at the very same stage. So the great thing was they weren't putting us in a group of, seasoned actors that were acting, on shows for the last 10 years, right? They're putting us amongst other people that really just wanted exposure and wanted to get into the industry, right? So what I liked about that program was that it was all a group of people that had a lot of interest in acting. They wanted to take it a step further by improving on their skills, learning how to read a script and not just memorize it, but internalize the words so that you're becoming the character and you're not just memorizing the words on a paper. Okay. So they taught us a lot of fundamentals, and because we were all on the same level, it was great for us to help each other out and kind of move towards improving as an actor by the end of the program.
So these were all high school kids.
These were all high school kids.
So so they were ranging probably from grade 9 to like 12.
Yeah.
I know, maybe I guess by that time there was no OSC, so 9 to 12, so they could range, but pretty much within the, I guess, 3 to 4 year range.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How do you go from someone did that stop? Like, did that stop, or did it kept like, did you continue that program year after year?
Yeah. So I actually only did that program for 1 year.
Okay.
After I did that program, I was like, listen, I need to take this further. Like, I want to be out there. I want my face to be seen. Okay. So after that program, I got involved with a coach. Okay. And he coached me for about a month, not that much time. Okay. But I got involved with him, and then immediately I asked him to recommend me to an agent because I wanted to be an agent. I wanted to be. How did
you get to meet that coach? Like was it just through recommendations?
So it's a funny story. Okay. It's a bit of a long story. I don't know if you have the time for it.
Okay, so just I guess the point of it. What, did you get introduced to somebody? Like, was it just a matter of just meeting someone by luck?
Yeah, I was introduced to him by way of trying to get represented by another agent.
I see.
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. I'll tell you just quickly because it's interesting. Sure. So after being involved in that theater program, like I said, I really wanted to get representation. So back in the day, being the person that I am, the go-getter type of person I was emailing a bunch of agents across Toronto, like literally emailing them saying, hey, I want to be represented by you. I see all the actors that you have on your roster and I want to be part of it. And I remember trying to get in touch with so many of them, and, all of them at that time, it was so hard to get an agency. And I remember emailing one of the best agents at the time, and his assistant had responded and said, hey, you know what, we'll bring you in for a bit of an interview and we'll just get to know you. Long story short, I came in, I met him. I had a little bit of a monologue that he wanted me to prepare for. I presented it to him and he didn't like it. But he said, you know what, I think you have a lot of potential. I just don't think that monologue was right for you. I want you to, take this monologue here that I have, practice it, come back to me and let me see what you got. So I did that. I came back to him and he's like, you know what, wow, that's great. You did a really good job. But I still don't think you're ready yet. And then he went into his drawer and he said, you know what, I have a guy that I usually direct only actors on my roster to. And I want you to work with him for a bit and come back to me once you do some work with him. And long story short, he provided me with that card. I called this guy who happened to be the coach I was talking about, and I trained with him for about a month. Okay. And funny enough, after I trained with him for about a month and we put together a bit of a demo reel, what we call in the actor world, the coach actually said, you know what? I think there's some better agency for you to go to as opposed to this person that recommended you to me. So he actually put my demo reel together, sent it off to a couple other agents, and one of those agents called him back and said, you know what, I want him. I want to sign him. And that's how I eventually got signed.
So typically, from what I understood, the actors would have to find their own agent. But in your case, it was the other way around. Your coach kind of recommended you to a number of agents and they reached out to you.
Yes.
So would you say for some new upcoming actor who maybe in their high school they're just playing, they're just exploring themselves, would you recommend that they also get a coach?
I would. I mean, there's a lot of ins and outs in the industry that you don't know until you meet the right people that know it, right? So I'd say a coach in any profession, anything that you do is always good because you're learning from someone that's already done it before.
And then is there like a how would you craft it in this day and age where you got Facebook, Instagram, internet, where you could read a lot onto all these different coaches out there? How do you know you nailed it on the right coach?
Yeah,
like is it just hit and miss?
It definitely is.
Okay.
You never really know, right? It's like there's so many coaches out there. There's so many different people that act and have different.
Is it specifically acting coach, or is it other like is it pronunciation? Is it like dancing? Is it combination of all?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. They have varying coaches in so many different aspects of acting, right? Like you can get a voice coach, you can get someone that helps you with the articulation of words, or you can get someone that can help you with accents, for example. So there's so many different types. I mean, what I would recommend for someone that wants to get into this is to just get a generic acting coach, someone that will help you read and interpret the lines on a page and help you become the character as opposed to just memorizing the lines, because that's the key to acting, especially with film. When you watch film, you may have seen like a bad actor. A bad actor is the one that's just kind of like reiterating the lines.
Yeah, you could tell that. But then
a good actor, someone like Daniel Day-Lewis, for example, it's almost like you don't even know who he is as a real person, like as a Daniel Day-Lewis. You just know him as a character that he is on screen because there's no separation between his character and his person. He's just
so they're living it.
He's living
that character.
They call it method acting.
Method acting.
So Daniel Day-Lewis is a method actor. When he gets a role, he literally secludes himself from everything outside of his normal life, and he becomes the character. So I would say try and get a coach that is really good, really seasoned in helping you internalize the lines on a page and help you become the character, as opposed to just memorizing the lines, because people can see right through it.
But I mean, there are other actors that don't do method acting.
Oh, there are, definitely. I mean,
so is it more of a preference between what kind of actors you want to be?
Yeah.
Or is it more of a talent that you have to master?
Yeah, it definitely is a preference, right?
Okay.
Like there's some people that are comedic actors that are, they have a different way of training. For people like that, I'd recommend going to, improv classes, because that's where you really get to tap into your instincts and you're more looking at for the comedic timing, right? But it depends on really what you want. I mean, my recommendation.
But did you know what you want back then?
I did know what I wanted.
You did know what you wanted.
I wanted to be an actor that isn't just on the surface. I wanted to become a character. The reason why I got into acting was because I like the idea of living so many different lives. I could live the life of a police officer, a lawyer, of a athlete, all in one life. You know what I mean? And that's why I got into acting, just so I can internalize and become all these different characters.
So thanks for sharing. So now you're matched up with this agent. Your first audition.
Yeah.
Now you actually have someone that you have to reach out to on a weekly basis, just follow up, give your availability to them and just get your first audition. As someone who probably attended many auditions, as I know, at least I know, you went for a handful of them during the time that we used to work together. So during all these auditions that you go through, can you tell right away that you got it or not? You don't know. So every call that you know, a production company calls the agent, every call that an agent calls you back, it's yes or no, right?
Yeah.
It's 50-50 for you?
Yeah, I mean, think about it like going to an interview for a job.
Okay.
You know, you might think you killed it,
Uh-huh.
but, you know, someone else might have done a bit better than you, right?
Okay.
Funny enough, I found with my experience doing auditions was it was the auditions that I didn't feel good about that I actually either got a callback for or I ended up booking ultimately. And I have a theory. I think the reason for that was because the auditions I didn't feel good about were the ones where I was the most natural. Right. So Jim Carrey has this thing that he does where like he goes in the mirror and he just kind of like makes different faces and he doesn't care about judgment. Right. And I find auditions where I approach it with that perspective where for me, I don't really prep much and I don't care about how I look, but I more so just go in and I hit the lines and I just try my best to be the character. Those are the ones that turn out to be the ones I end up getting as opposed to the ones that I over practice for.
I see.
So the ones that like I really focus on trying to like memorize the lines. Whenever I focus too hard on a particular audition, I find those are the ones that don't come through. But the ones that I go to and I feel like, you know what, I didn't get it. They definitely didn't like me. That's usually the one that I get a call back for. And that's the funny thing. It's a funny thing.
It is indeed, because you think that, you know, you flunked it, but then yet you're getting a call for it.
Yeah, because I think what I do is when I go to those auditions, I leave, like while I'm in the room, I'm not thinking about any judgment. I'm really just doing it.
Are there judgments though when you're auditioning? Like, I'm sure they're recording you, but like,
I should say judgment in the sense of how do I look when I do this particular move? Like if we were in a scene right now, there's some actors, I mean, when you begin, like me, for example, where I'm so much in my head, where I'm thinking about, all right, there's a camera on me. I got to make sure I'm sitting straight. I got to make sure I'm looking at you in a certain way. And that's what we call being in your head. And when you're in your head, people can see that.
Yeah, because it's not natural, right?
It's not natural.
You're not relaxed. Exactly. You're still processing things that are happening around you.
Exactly.
Are you still working with the same agent?
I am, yes.
How long has it been?
It's been, I want to say maybe 10 years.
So you only have one agent now?
Only one agent, yeah.
But typically, as actors, they say you should have at least, you know, a few agents working for you. Why you're going against what everyone recommends? Is it just because the fact that it has been working for you?
Yeah. So
you don't want to like stir up the pot?
Yeah, it's twofold. Number one, it's tough to get another agent because there's a conflict there, right? Usually when you have an agent, there's a contract that's signed that says that they're your sole agent for a certain period of time. Okay. Because what happens is if you have another agent and you get a booking, for example, then there's some conflict between who gets the commission out of that, right? Now, it makes sense if you have another agent that's in a different region. So some actors would have an agent in Toronto and an agent in LA, for example. Okay.
But in Toronto, from what, you have to have one agent only?
Yeah, I won't say you have to.
Okay, you can't have multiple agents
that has multiple agents.
Oh, you don't know anybody.
But I don't want to say you have to. I just know that during a specific length of time. So for me, I'm no longer bound by the contract. So if I wanted to, I could leave my agent. But I don't think for the typical actor they're allowed to have two agents within the same period of time
for the same district.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I think you'd have to look into. I mean, don't quote me on this. Okay. You know,
okay, because I was under the impression that you could have potentially multiple agents working on your interests because you just have to pay your registration fee and just be registered. You
shouldn't have to pay any registration fee.
There isn't any registration fee.
If an agent tells you that they need money to sign you up, run away from them. Run fast. You shouldn't have to pay anything. So they get paid commission off of the jobs that you book.
Correct. But to be a non-unionized member, you're not paying any sort of membership fee to be on that platform to find agents?
No. Now, when you're a unionized member, there is a yearly fee that you be paid to be part of the union, but that's not going to the agent. That's going to the union that represents actors.
I see. So I know we talked about this quite some time, but I'll leave this at the end of the part one before we end it to ask my question. Yeah. But so when you go to these auditions, most of them are in Toronto. Yeah. And most of them are obviously, recorded. They probably have, production team that, managing all these people that are coming in and out and trying to. Did you do any extra works?
I didn't do any extra work.
You never did any extra work.
So like I said, I was fortunate enough that the coach that I worked with, he directed me to one of his so he used to have a lot of agents that he worked with. So whenever he would train someone, he would just send a video to them and say, hey, this guy I'm training, I think he has a lot of talent. Do you want to sign him? So in this particular case, I was able to get signed with an agent directly as an actor, as opposed to the path that some actors take, which is traditionally to maybe start as an extra and then become an actual actor to be on screen, right? So I kind of skipped the extra step and I went straight to
Was it because of the experience that you had? Having to work in a high school, having to work in that community group of people that put those plays together?
It was the experience, but I think, to be honest, it's just the readiness of it too, right? I think a lot of people sometimes underestimate themselves and they think maybe they don't have enough talent, so they might just go the extra route just so that they can get the experience. But you know, if you are confident and competent in your abilities, then I think you have what it takes to maybe just give it a shot and email an agent or email a coach and say, hey, I want to put together a demo reel to be on your roster, right? I don't think you have to be an extra before you become an actor. There's no
obviously there's no right or wrong. There's just a matter of which route you take and whatever. So I think we're at the time that I want to ask this question, but I want to hear I want you to think about it and give me the answer on the part 2 of this conversation that we're having. And the question is, with digital age where you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have all these platforms, you're not active. You are not. If someone looks at your Instagram as an actor, they're not going to see all the things that you do. And I've asked you this before and you've given me the answer, but I want to have it for record, and I'll have you answer it in the second part. But the question is, why not? What makes you stay away from that platform? All right, so we'll end it here. Let's begin part 2. So did you had a chance to think about what I asked you about? Why aren't you active as an actor on social media? I mean, I've seen some of your highlights, but I know you do a lot more. Is there a reason you're staying away from that platform?
I won't say there's a particular reason. Number one, it's very tough to get some of your own footage, which I know comes as a surprise to a lot of people. You know, we shoot a lot of things and sometimes I don't even know when it comes out. Because it's so tough to get a hold of it. But I mean, there's no particular reason. I mean, I find I'm not as socially active in general, even when it comes to just my personal life and other things I post about on social media. I've never really had an urge to really show a lot of my things and what I do online. I mean, I think, like you said, in this age, it definitely helps to be a bit more socially active. But I think it has to come from a natural, organic place. You know, if you have to really want to show it and show it in a way that's natural, as opposed to just putting it out there in a way that comes across more so like braggadocious, like, hey, I'm this big actor on this big TV show. For me, it's more so, you know, if I do happen to get a hold of some footage of some work that I did, I kind of just put it out to share people and say, hey, you know, this is some work I did. But
so from a real, like from a package standpoint, if you were to package everything, so how do you go about, like, is it just more of a putting it on a piece of paper as a CV to say I've done this instead of having footages? Like, wouldn't you, like, I'm just, because I'm not an actor, I don't know how, but what is the standard? Is there like a minimum standard as someone nowadays that wants to get like these big roles or at least get these big shows to sign them up? Wouldn't they want to have this packaged up in like at least a video format?
Yeah. So what you're talking about, I think, is a demo reel.
Yes.
So it's a collection of all of your projects,
work that you have done. Correct.
Your best work.
Correct.
Right. Typically, what happens is, just to maybe slightly go into the process of an audition and how it comes about. Typically what happens is an agent has a list or a resume of all of your work. And that resume along with your headshot is what is sent to a casting director, and that's what they see. So they don't necessarily see your demo reel per se. They can if you want. I mean, we do have online portals that we can post all that material. But typically what happens is your agent will send a resume, essentially, of your work that you've done along with your headshot. And then it's the casting director's responsibility to go through all of these different resumes and headshots and see which one they want to see for a role that they have.
But from your standpoint, you never want to, even if you don't post it, you don't want to have a copy of these?
I actually do have one. I do have a demo reel.
Okay.
I use it primarily for whenever I'm signing up for a new class.
Okay.
So I still do train when I get the chance to. And one of the requirements for a lot of like the top studios, I should say, is that you send them a demo reel. They want to see your work because they want to make sure that they're pairing you in a group of the same level. Okay. So I do use a demo reel for that purpose, and
but not necessarily for getting those auditions or actually the roles.
Correct. Yeah.
Because it's just a matter of going. They go through their own process.
Yeah, they just go through your resume and your headshots.
So now just to kind of do a little twist on it and go through back to your high school when you did all that. Why did you not want to pursue acting academically? Like in university, you went and studied something that's unrelated to acting. Where like was it natural to say, okay, I'm gonna do this always as a part-time?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. It's a deep question.
Well, no, I just want to know, I mean, I'm out of curiosity. Like, if I had those kind of talents, whether I was a professional sport player or actor or a singer, I would want to pursue that further and further, no?
Yeah. And it's a good question. Okay. The reason I say it's a good and deep question is because so acting right now is something that I do as a side gig. It's a hobby. It's something that I love doing, and it's something that I will hopefully do forever as long as I'm able to do it. But as I said, it's a side gig. It's not something I do full time. And I think the reason why I haven't done it full time is, it's tough. It's difficult to answer the question because there's always been an urge to do it full time. Okay. But I just haven't really been, I want to say, I haven't been secure enough to take the risk of doing it full time because it's a very difficult industry to be in. For sure. Right. And for me,
a lot of competition.
For sure. There's a lot of, being in Toronto now, it's getting a lot better. But, when I was becoming an actor, it was a lot more difficult to get roles in Toronto outside of just maybe a actor role. So an actor role is usually a role where there's one or two lines, whereas a principal and a lead role is a role where, of course,
you have more lines, more
screen time and whatnot. So it was very difficult growing up to kind of grow outside of the small basket of roles that they had available for actors in Toronto. And for me, I knew that I also wanted to sort of, pursue an area in business which would allow me to get a bit more security to my life in terms of having some steady income and whatnot. So for me, it was sort of the balance between trying to have a stable income and then also trying to live out a hobby.
So doing what you want versus what, economically is feasible.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I've taken more of a route where I've been more focused on, a professional career in the business side, because like I said, it was providing me with a more stable and secure way of living. And I think that really goes to the type of person I am.
Is it because you're conservative?
And that's exactly what I just touched on.
I don't know. I'm asking. Are you conservative?
That's what I touched on. Okay. I think I am. If I had to define myself, I'm somewhat conservative, and I like to have a plan. I like to know where I am and where I'm going.
But actors are not necessarily conservative, though. Actors, they go out of their comfort zone to actually play out a role that not necessarily might be, specifically fit for their life, right? I mean, I'm sure you were put in a position that you were given a script to, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were given a script that, you might not felt connected to, it might have been against, everything that who you are, but would you still do it though?
Yeah, I definitely would. I mean, there are limits, of course, to certain things that I would do, but I definitely would. And actors, you're right, typically are not really conservative.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think there's aspects of your life, like my life is in different compartments, right? And when it comes to like my stability and well-being, there's a certain way that I like it to be where I know where, you know, the money for next month is coming from,
for
example, right? And to be an actor, it's difficult in the sense that you may not know when you're going to get your next gig. Job. You know, you may not know when you're going to get another audition, you know, much less an actual gig. You may not know when the next audition is going to come, right? So
in 2019-20, the I guess the acting career or just the production scene in Toronto or filming industry in Toronto, would you say how often are auditions happening? If someone who's like doing this full time, like they're ready to do this, you know, every day, are there auditions like literally every day?
There's auditions, there's opportunities out there.
Okay.
It really comes down to how much experience you have and who your agent is.
Okay.
Right. So I'm in a very fortunate position because, like I said, I do this as a hobby, as a side thing. It's something that it's a dream that I've always had, but I don't pursue it full time. And I'm very fortunate because my agent is very respectful of that, and they send me auditions that suit my schedule. Now, going back to where I said it depends on your agent. If you have an agent that knows that you want to be a full-time actor and is committed to helping you grow, and they know that you have the skills and the talent, they would likely be submitting you very often for roles. And if you are pretty talented, there's a likelihood that you can get up to 4 or 5 auditions a week or even more, right?
And but is it like mentally, can someone actually go through that many auditions?
Yeah, like there's a lot of people that do it.
That do it regularly.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a full-time actor and that's where your main source of income is, you're gonna definitely find a way.
Is it true that you still have to move to California to pursue it even further? Is that like valid in 2020 now?
It's a good point. It used to be. At one point, it used to be where, you know, you couldn't be a working actor if you were in New York or in LA.
California.
That was the thing. But nowadays, there's a lot of actor roles and even some lead roles that are coming to Toronto. Not as much as, you know, I'm sure actors would like, but there's a lot more than there used to be. And, you know, Netflix opened up a studio downtown on Lakeshore. So there's a lot more productions coming to the city. So there's a lot more opportunities now, more so than ever. And it is possible. It really just comes down to what you want and how much your agent is working for you.
Have you been able to get yourself, like, do you ever see yourself being on a creative side? Not just, you know, given some, you know, script and some role to play it, but actually be part of that whole process of actually creating something? Like, do you see yourself in that mode?
Yeah. Like behind the cameras more?
Not necessarily, but like, you know, get a small group of, you know, talented people from, you know, photographers, from videographers, from editors, from directors, from actors who actually, you know, there's a group of, you know, young talents who are willing to work together to come up with something creative, you know?
Yeah.
Have you ever had those kind of opportunities to work with people that not necessarily they're specifically are professional, you know, crews that do for professional studios, whereas these guys might be, you know, smaller, you know, home-based, you know, guys that
more
do
so
that.
Indie films. Yeah. Actually, this year, one of my good friends, he shot an indie film, so a short film. And he gave me the opportunity to be a part of it. So I wasn't part of the creative process of the idea that the film was based off of, but I was one of the actors in the film. And so I was part of that. I've been a part of it. And, you know, it's beginning when in my beginning stages as an actor, I used to do a lot of indie stuff as well. But as far as being on the creative side and maybe writing or directing or producing, I find where I work best is turning something on paper into life.
Okay, so turning the idea into actual, you know.
Yes, I find that's where I work best. I don't mind. I mean, I do have an interest in writing. I think I'm a very good writer when it comes to telling stories and whatnot. But I find my talent is in bringing things to life, and that's what, you know, I've chosen to focus on.
Which is primarily acting. And is it film acting or theater acting as well?
So I began with theater, and I loved theater.
Okay.
But I transitioned into film and television.
Would you ever go back?
I think I would.
Okay.
I think I would.
You don't want to like have something on the side as well, like you do this, like, you know, your audition to film, you know, regularly or part-time, as you said, but then have a theater play that happening, you know, once every couple months.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking about doing that. It's funny you mentioned it. I'm thinking about
going back to your roots and figuring out.
Yeah, loving it, right? Because I think with theater, the great thing about theater is that it is live.
Yeah, and you're getting the immediate reactions.
Exactly. Okay. Right. It's like how we are right now, right? Like the camera's on you, and I mean, yeah, we can edit things after this, but with theater, it's like the moment, the pressure is on, and I like that feeling, right? So I might go back to that.
Can the other way around work? Can someone say, listen, I started from a film acting and now I'm in the theater acting? Because I've heard always the other way around works, where you start in a theater acting and then you move into film acting. Yeah. But have you seen other people where they go vice versa, where they start in film acting and then land into theater acting?
Personally, I don't know many people that have done it, but professionally in the Hollywood world, there's a lot of people that do it.
That do theater acting.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that they've done film, but they would go do Broadway, you know, in like an off season, for example. So it is common, I think, if you're more of a working actor, because you have a lot of these opportunities. Denzel Washington has done it before. But I think it's definitely a different way of acting. There is a thin line between what constitutes a theater actor and a film actor.
Is it specifically the camera, where in a film acting you're supposed to look at a way you look at the camera, your angle, your way of, you know, interacting with the camera, whereas your theater, you're more dealing with live audience that are there, and you're trying to, you know, and you're obviously your colleagues who are, you know, playing with you alongside with you on the same stage. Now, with that said, do you ever see yourself broadening your career when it comes to acting, like doing other things that are related to acting? Let's say dancing. Would you ever do stand-up comedy? Would you ever do things that are, you know, that use acting as part of their work, but it's not just acting? Have you ever explored those type of areas?
It's a good question. I personally have not. In the dramatic arts world, I do like to dance. I think I'm a decent dancer. What do you think? Am I a good comedian? Do you think I could do comedy?
I mean, personally, again, I think we're at a stage, and I guess I feel I'm at a stage where I want to try everything. Not everything, but I want to try things that I think I could get better at it. Right? Sometimes I think my own you know, conservativeness can kind of put me back, you know, not wanting to explore things, right? Because we had these talks many times where we live once. So you if you feel like you have something, I mean, when I see you, I think you do have, you know, the grasp where, you know, you could, you know, have number of people just to, you know, kind of sit there and listen to what you have to say, right? Okay, now it's just a matter of, can you put it in a way, or can you hit the, you know, your notes on the right time to get that joke, you know, translated? Which I think nowadays there's a lot of comedian out there, you know, both big ones and small ones. But I just think it's just a matter of exploring it. I mean, I know guys who have never done acting in their life, and they're, you know, they want to become a comedian. I mean, you know, they might, you know, have, you know, funny events that happen in their life turn into, you know, a joke and being able to translate. But you have never actually explored that, you know.
I haven't explored any of that other any of those other aspects in the dramatic world. But I agree with you. I think life is just all about experimenting with different things and seeing what works for you. I mean, one of the things that I think I really wished I explored a bit more when I was younger was the music world. I really wish I played a bit more instruments, and I kind of tapped into that a bit more. But I've picked back up some of that a bit more, you know, taking some piano classes here and there. But I think that's what it's about in life. It's really just about experimenting. And that's part of the reason why, for me, acting is more so for now something that I want to continue doing, but I don't think it'll be something that'll be full time, all in. It may, you know, I mean, it really just takes one movie to change someone's life. But the reason why I think I've been living with it being something along, you know, the side, as opposed to just being my point A, is because I like the idea of doing so many different things and experimenting to see what it is that I like the best. So, you know, I do acting, but I'm also, like, you know, working full time. I'm also in, you know, the real estate world, very active, you know, and very focused on like my overall well-being and whatnot. So there's different things that I like to experiment in. And I find not focusing in too much on one thing, which, again, there's a thin line, you know, if you really want something, you got to focus on it. But I also feel like it's great to experiment with different things, see what you like the most, and, you know, then pursue it, right?
That's very true. I mean, to be able to have, you know, the I guess the energy to actually get on it, focus on, you know, either one thing or have multiple things running at the time can help, you know, evolve as a, you know, as who you are as a person. You did touch up on, you know, one thing, which is, I know for a fact that you are pretty health conscious. You do I mean you do yoga.
Yes.
And meditation. Meditation.
Yes, sir.
You do you're active with your gym. You switch it up. You do mornings, nights. How do you manage it? Like, are you a good time manager in general, or is it more of a? Do you do it as part of like a must do, or is it more of a habit?
Yeah, it's definitely something that's done by way of what I know I need for my life, for my overall well-being.
Okay.
And once you have that in your mind as something that you want to do in order to make yourself happy and feel good, you're always going to make time for it, right? So for me, going to the gym, meditating, doing yoga, that's something that makes me feel good.
Okay.
And as a result of it, I try and make sure that every day I carve out some time in my day for that feeling. You know what I mean? So I find it always starts with you and what you want. And if you truly feel like something that you do is a benefit to your life, then it's not a matter of not having the time. It's really just you carving out and finding the time to do it. And those are things that I always make sure I try and carve the time out to do because it brings so much benefit to my life.
But when I truly think about, you know, all the things that you do, it's like literally, how do you even get them all done in 24 hours?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I could only do so many things, but then you're always constantly, you know, doing something.
Yeah.
I've never seen you to say, listen, I'm just going to take a break.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Maybe it's just the energy that you have, or is this part of your personality? Have you always been like this?
I think I've always been like this.
Where you always have to be up to something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it goes back to what you said, right? Where it's like we have one life to live.
Okay.
Right? And why waste it doing nothing when you could be doing something, right?
That's true. And throughout all these years since, you know, your high school days now, you know, to your, you know, early 30s, the question becomes, do you, obviously, you know, it's a very, you know, popular question. Do you enjoy the journey, or do you always look for the destination? Especially when it comes to
that. I love that question. I I think that's like my favorite question you've asked today, only because there's so much layers to it. And I know we can't get into all of it now. I mean, you and I, we always have discussions about, you know, life and different ways that we approach it. But I think that question is one that if someone can understand what I'm about to say, I think it really changes their happiness or their goal. And what I'm about to say is more so, I think in order to be happy, you can't look towards the destination. You have to enjoy the journey. Because if you are only focused on the destination, then trying all the hurdles and all the hiccups and all the things that come up before you get to that, it's not going to help you. You're probably going to fold, and you're probably going to say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. But if you like the process of anything, that's where I think the true happiness comes in. And that's really something that I really just started to realize most recently, where it's like, I don't like acting necessarily because I get to be on TV. I like acting because of the process. I like acting because I like to prepare for a role. I like being able to study my character. I like being able to become that person. I think it's all about the process. And if you focus on what you like doing as part of a process, then I think the end goal is really just a byproduct of it, and that's something that you'll benefit on later on in life. But if you only focus on the destination, that's definitely a focal point where you have to look to, but you're overlooking the process that it takes to get there, you know, and not everybody's cut out for it. You know, everybody wants a corner office in a corporate building, but they don't want to do all the things that are involved in the process to get there. But if you like the process, then the end goal, the corner office, that'll just be a byproduct.
Is it possible that someone that's on their path to becoming an actor to lose their focus?
It is very possible.
So it's more. So how do you or someone who's an actor keeps their mind focused on wanting of you know, they might go to auditions after audition and keep hearing the no's, you know, or don't even hear anything, you know.
Yeah. How
do you keep that momentum going? Is it more of, you know, obviously don't give up, keep pursuing it, or, you know, when do you know that's not for you? Like, how do you, like, do you have you experienced that where you do something and say, okay, you know, I've given my best, but that's just not me. Is it very, do you feel it? Or is it more of a, you know, you kind of have to, you know, it comes by time where you tell yourself, listen.
Yeah. To be honest, I haven't really felt it yet, but it's a good question again, because I think at some point you have to be honest with yourself and say, hey, is this a path I should continue to be on, right? And I mean, I don't really have a direct answer to it, because it's tough to be honest with yourself at a certain point and say, you know what, this is not for me. But I think it really just comes with, what feels right. You know, like sometimes, like the path to becoming an actor, it's tough because there's a lot of no's. And one might think after one no or two no's or 100 no's that maybe it's not right for them. But, you know, on that 101 or 102nd audition, you might book the biggest role of your life, right? So I think it really comes down to what you desire. And if you truly want something, this is personally just how I feel, then I think you really just have to find a way to push through all of the hurdles that come. And, you know, even if it takes 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you know, Denzel Washington didn't win his first Oscar until his early 30s. You know, if it takes however long, if you have a true desire to get something or to want, you know, to obtain something, I think that's what keeps you going. And I don't think you should stop until that desire is lost, right? So
even if you're physically, your body is not capable of, you know, making all those auditions, right? You're saying that you have to keep pushing it, but you would have to consider your physical well-being too, right?
Yeah, as long as you're able-bodied, of course, right? I mean, more so I speak about your desire, but also considering other aspects that comes with it. You're no longer able to physically, you know, do something,
do a particular act that limits you.
Exactly. But if you have that internal desire, as long as everything else external allows you to obtain it, I think you should really just keep going.
So would it be safe enough to say that when Neion goes into the world of acting as part-time, it feels like a second home?
It does.
It does.
It does. I mean, whenever I become a character, it feels like a second home.
It feels like you're back in your high school the first time. Do you still have that anxiety? Do you still have that, you know, sense of, you know, like it's the first time?
Every single time.
Every single time.
Yeah, every single time. Especially considering that, you know, you walk into a room and there's a casting director, a director, and like 3 or 4 other people that are making a decision on your fate. Right, so it's hard not to really feel nervous when you walk into those situations.
Is there like for the last question? Is there ego in the room? Like, do you when you go there to a production set where you see all these people that might be famous, might not be famous, might have done greatest work in their career? Do you feel that there's a tension and there's ego in that room, or no?
Not really.
Not really.
Yeah, not really. I mean, you don't really get to see or hear much of the people, right?
Yeah.
All they do is they welcome you in and they say, all right, do you have any questions? If you don't have any questions, then you proceed. Once you're done, it's just a goodbye, right? So you don't really get anything much out of them.
Okay.
It is always a good note to maybe try and, you know, make some small talk just so they can remember you. You want to make sure that someone has something to remember you by. But typically you don't get that chance.
They won't give you that opportunity to be able to.
It's very formal. It's very, you know, high and by, and you know, you just hope for the best.
Great. Well, I enjoy speaking to you, man. It's been a blast. I mean, time flies. You know, I wish we had more time to.
I got a question for you, if you don't mind.
Man. No
I'm going to flip the script here.
Sure.
You know, want to see, it's going to turn it into Neon's talk for maybe a couple seconds here. But I just wanted to know what inspired you to, you know, start this podcast. What was the reason behind it, and what do you hope to achieve with the podcast?
So in a simple term, the answer is I listened and I watched a lot of podcasts on YouTube. Yeah. And that kind of got me thinking to why people do it. Mm-hmm. Then obviously there's a financial aspect to it where people make money off YouTube, mm-hmm. but it was more of it's been always a question, can I do it? Yeah. You know, that's good. Can I just, you know, are there people out there who are willing to just spend, you know, a minute of their time mm-hmm. watching me talking to people that might be interested in to me as well as to them. So in a nutshell, I don't know where it's going to take me. Okay. All I'm doing is I'm focused and I'm trying to get as many recording as I can. And the point being is that because when that recording is finished and when I'm ready to release it, mm-hmm. I have a set of times I'm looking into weekly releases. Nice. So the goal is to do it as much as I can and then see where it takes me.
That's good. That's beautiful, man.
Once we become YouTube famous, I'll thank you for being one of the people that, you know, took this time out of, you know, his busy calendar to come and talk to me.
Well, thank you for having me, man.
It was nice talking to you, man.
Likewise.
Hopefully we'll see more of you next year.
All right.
Thank you, man.